You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we teach music educators how to build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. And today's episode is a little bit different format. This is a casual conversation with my good friend, Michelle Rose. You can follow her blog at themusicalrose.com, where she shares some of her wonderful insights about being an online music educator, which she is about to start her 4th year doing. So Michelle and I are going to have a very candid conversation today. Yes, in part about our own philosophies and the paradigm shifts that we hope everybody is experiencing right now. But also, we want to talk about the things that you can do to feel joyful, to feel calm, to feel happy, no matter what situation you're faced with this fall. And that can be pretty tough to do. So before we get started, a quick shout out to Smart Music for supporting this podcast as they have done for more than 3 years now. So thank you, Smart Music, for all the support that you give to music educators, for all the free things that you do for us, and for all of the assessment opportunities that we have with Smart Music. And that is a perfect segue into Michelle, because she uses Smart Music heavily in her.
Yes, I love Smart Music. I don't think I would be in this same exact place without Smart Music. So definitely a super valuable tool in my toolbox as an online music teacher.
And you haven't always taught online, have you?
No, I was a high school band director, like in brick and mortar, before I came to my virtual school. And so it was definitely a shift. And I totally feel for all of you music teachers out there, because I felt like I was thrown off the deep end, like I was back at year one, my first year of virtual teaching. But now that I'm going into year 4, I have seen the possibilities that have happened through my students in online learning. And I have also seen that, I can adjust and that all teachers can adjust to the online environment. And so I'm really happy to talk with Elisa because both of us have been involved in online learning in some form or another for a couple of years now. And so I think we have both seen the benefits that online learning can provide, whether it's to teachers or to students, and especially the benefits in a time that is not a crisis, that you don't have 48 hours to try to put something together. So I'm really excited for this conversation today.
Yeah, well, and you just hopped on with me. I was texting her this afternoon, Michelle, are you available for a chat? Of course, call me anytime. And I said, it's going to be a podcast.
Yes. Well, look, Elisa is on the top of my list. She has my personal phone number. So if Elisa says, hey, you want to chat, she gets an automatic yes, because she is definitely one of my favorite people to collaborate with, and also just has been with me on this online journey. We both really did a lot of figuring out how to make it work when there wasn't a model. And so I'm glad to talk with you anytime.
Likewise. We've had some really good collaborations together, and I hope we get to continue that as well. So you're just ridiculously inspiring. And the way that you have, especially over these last couple of months, just jumped in head first, you've been the lifesaver for so many people, just buoying. Is that the right word? Buoying? Boying?
Boing? That's a tough word.
Lifting everybody else up because you've done this. You're like the lifeguard who knows how to swim, who knows how to do all of this. And you didn't just keep it to yourself. You opened your heart and you opened your mind and you opened your skill set and toolbox and have been sharing relentlessly to help others. So you are just amazing.
Oh, thank you. I am so grateful to have this opportunity because I love to help other teachers. Like mentoring and helping others is really my jam. So I feel very, grateful even in such a tough time that I can help as much as I have. And also, I just want people to understand too that virtual music education is not, less than brick and mortar education. It's just a different form of learning. And it can be just as valuable, and it can be, a unique experience that's really awesome for students. And I've been an advocate for online music learning since the first day I became a virtual music teacher. So I feel really passionate about making sure every single student has a high quality music education, no matter where they go to school, whether that's through brick and mortar or through online learning or in a hybrid. But, that's really my goal. And I hope that people can see music education can happen anywhere. And it can be a great high quality experience anywhere.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing so hard because oh, I'm sorry. It's just so cute. I'm just imagining that so many people have turned off the podcast now. Music learning can't happen online, but I keep going back to what is learning? And yes, we can call it virtual learning. I think online learning is more appropriate of a term, or distance education is more appropriate. And this is not anything new to human beings. I mean, 10 years ago, there was online learning. I got my master's degree entirely online. And that doesn't mean that I didn't learn anything. It's a real master's degree. It's on my wall, and I use it all the time. The stuff that not the paper. I don't use the paper. Use the stuff I learned.
You use it as a placemat.
Exactly. When I get my doctorate, I will have done my entire doctorate online, and it's still going to be a doctorate. You're all still going to have to call me Dr. Jansen.
Oh, I definitely will. Dr. J.
But you go further, there were distance education courses that were mail order that you could, I know this was way before you were born, Michelle. You could, fill out an order form, send it in, and they would send you back a course. And I had a wonderful conversation with this percussion god, Dom Famulero. And he said he's been doing distance learning for percussionists for 25 years. They would take a video of themselves playing and send him the video, and he would record on it his response to their playing and give them help. So that was even before that. And then you go back even further. And every time when I was a small child and my mother would stick in a self-help cassette tape into the the wagon vehicle that we had, that was distance learning, right? Distance is any time that you're away from the teacher. Raise your hand if you've ever learned something from a YouTube video, right? Raise your hand if you ever learned something from a book. The quality of the education is based on the content of the education and then the delivery, right? So what we need to see, first of all, is this paradigm shift that online learning is real learning. It is not, there's nothing virtual about it, okay? It's legit, first of all, and we've been doing it for so long. And then think about how much more enhanced we have it now. I feel like we tend to think, oh, poor me. I'm so limited. And yes, being online, it can feel limiting if all that you've ever done in your career is have an in-person classroom, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I was just I just was so excited that you started on this conversation. I pulled up my Instagram because I wrote a post the other day that listed all of the different ways I learned online in the past couple of months. So, Yes, I took a grad school class. That's like the most typical online learning. But you know what? I also I took a voice lesson over FaceTime. Um, I learned how to do or what I need to do my eyebrows over YouTube. I learned from at Keith K Music. He like posted a video about how he uses fun backing tracks to like play his flute etudes. And like I learned that from Instagram, you know, and I think he originally posted it on TikTok. Like these are all ways that I'm learning online, and also how your students are learning online. Like I learned, you know, from a webinar. I learned from Pinterest. I learned about things just using Google. I you know, learned about restorative justice and connected with people and created community. Like all of these things I did without being in a physical room with anybody, and they were just as valuable or sometimes even more valuable than what I could get out of being in a physical place, because I wasn't limited to, you know, what I could drive to or what I could get on a plane and go do. And obviously that is even more limited right now than it was previously. So I think, you know, there just needs to be this mindset shift of not what I can't do, but what are the really exciting things that I can do with my students? Or what are the really exciting things that, you know, what are the really exciting ways that we can do things that are new, that are going to help foster these skills in a different way than I've ever done? And I think when you can approach this with a mindset of like, this is an exciting challenge, or this is something new, or I'm going to learn along with my students, it just helps you feel a little more at peace. And I know it's hard to like let go. Trust me, I was there. But when you can let go and say, hey, I'm going to learn along with you this semester. We're going to make mistakes together, but we're also going to make music in a really cool way that we haven't done before, and just kind of enjoy the process. When you're enjoying that, your students will too. If your students see you coming into class every day panicked or frustrated, or if you're telling them right off the bat, like this semester is just going to be a wash and we'll start again when we can meet in person, that is really going to show up in their playing, and that's really going to show up in, you know, their work. And so you really do set the tone. And I know we, like, if you've been to any marching band training or if you were a band director, like you really instill in your student leaders, like, hey, you set the tone for the rehearsal. Well, you as the teacher are setting the tone for how students are going to approach this semester or this year, really.
Yeah, that's perfect and beautifully stated. So I want to touch on a couple of things in this Facebook post. This is from the Music Educators Creating Online Learning Group, and Erica posted it. I'm going to give her a shout out. Erica, woo woo, shout out. Woohoo! She says, there are so many posts about things we miss about teaching in person. What positives did you take away from online learning for music lessons? And there are some outstanding positives on this list, like using Google Meets for sing-alongs. It's the best 90 minutes of my week, right? And then of course that stemmed a whole conversation about how to do sing-alongs, right? Somebody said, I've loved increasing my tech skills. I've been using iMovie and so many other fun tools. Of course, lots of people cite having a mute button and being able to mute their students so they don't have to do that. Here's a beautiful one from Katie. She says, students that haven't said 3 words to me in the last 4 years sang for me over Seesaw. I now have ways to reach the excruciatingly shy students. And I don't think that's uncommon at all. You know, here's another one from Amanda. Students who never speak up in class participate using the chat feature. I learned more about one student in one Zoom session than in 2 or 3 years having him in class, trying to figure out how to incorporate this into face-to-face classes. So tell me, Michelle, about what is it, do the students feel like they're in a one-on-one? Have you watched your own students open up in this way?
Yes, definitely. So Students often come to my school for a variety of reasons, but a lot of times either their brick and mortar school wasn't maybe the best fit, or they, experienced bullying, or they maybe have anxiety, or maybe they're just looking for a change. But I see so many students who were not finding success in a brick and mortar setting really thrive when they get to my school. I know that students in my virtual ensembles really love the opportunity to be able to make music together. I have some students that won't get on the mic and say anything out loud, but they will type away in the chat. And it's just really great to give students who are more introverted, and that's me included for sure. I was that kid, growing up. I can turn it on for sure, but I like to just take things in. I love to be in a situation where there's a lot of quiet and reflection. And so when there's these opportunities for all this discussion, usually I'll be in the back just kind of taking things in and forming my opinion, but I would rather write things out. If you're ever in a session with me, I will type things into the chat, like the whole session, I'll just kind of type things in, like my little comments. And so I think it really can give a voice to all students. Students can respond in the chat. Students can turn their videos on and be themselves. And, if you have kids who are really outgoing and want to get on the mic and chat, there's plenty of time for that too. And then students who don't feel comfortable at all, they might not even want to turn their cameras on. They might not participate in chat, but they'll still turn in assignments. Or, if you give them alternative ways to participate through polling tools, through Nearpod, through the ability to have time to think and process and practice and turn in things in different ways. It's not just you have to be performing all the time. And you have to be participating in this one way. Students can find success in many different ways. So I think that's definitely a huge benefit. And also, just looking at students be independent is really inspiring and also humbling, because there has to be a level of independence in online learning. You really do have to let go as a director of some of the control. And that was definitely a lesson for me at first. But to see students become more independent in their musicianship and not maybe rely on the strongest player to double check whether they're, getting something right, or just playing quietly behind them. It really requires every student to take on this level of independence. And that can be such a valuable skill that students, when they do return to brick and mortar, will have, a more independent sense of musicianship. And so you can either look at it as this is really isolating, students are by themselves, or you can look at it as we are a community and we are coming together through an online space, and students have to have these independent skills to be a part of this musical community. And so I think it's just really a mindset shift. And these skills, if you can build them now, will pay dividends when you go back to in-person learning. So don't write off this time as just a wash. Use this time effectively to develop these skills that you might not be able to develop, when you are in person.
I love that. What about this huge advantage of letting students self-pace? Tell me where your bands are at. Do you have just the one band and it's all different skill levels? And how do you deal with that?
Yes. So right now, my virtual instrumental ensemble has both band and orchestra students in it. And then my choir is just singing. But it's grades 6 through 12. And so many different levels. And there is really a level that you can customize to. I love that Smart Music offers, solo repertoire that students can kind of just poke around in. So for my students who are looking for that extra challenge, it's right there. I can help students one-on-one much more easily. Like in the middle of class, I can just put students in separate breakout rooms, and I can just go through and help them. Or I can, it's a lot easier to kind of just set up a session where I can, if a student needs some extra help, say, come into my office hour and we'll work together. It's just a lot easier to reach students, and also, challenge the students who need more challenge. You can assign, extra practice to the students who maybe need a little more support. But you don't even need to do that through assignments. You can do that simply through saying, I'm available during this time. Let's meet, let's talk, let's get this individual attention that, maybe you can't do during the regular brick and mortar day because you have carpool duty, or, you just have to be in a physical place. There's so much more flexibility in my school day, in terms of, I don't have to be anywhere. I can be in a virtual place or a virtual classroom at any time. And well, I'm teaching synchronous class at specific times, but it allows me to kind of make sure that every student's needs are being addressed, and makes things just a lot easier to reach every kid and make sure every kid has the support they need.
Awesome. I feel like I could talk to you about just everything that you do, because I remember, wasn't one of the first things that you did, at least for me in my world, was about Google Forms.
Yes. Yeah. That was a couple of years ago. Yeah. That seems like it was like 10 years ago at this point, but I think it was just like 3 or 4. That was my first session that I presented for you.
Right. That's amazing. I was just reading through some of these other, comments. This post was one that I actually did a couple of weeks ago, where I said, what are some of the advantages of online learning that you've discovered? And you've already mentioned a couple of them that are, incredibly important. Those who struggled, we talked about that. Healthy emphasis on feedback over grades. Do you have to do grades and grading?
So I don't give grades for my ensembles because they're extracurricular. So the motivation has to strictly be on just being part of the community and wanting to play music and to submit imperfect music into smart music, which a lot of my kids struggle with, because I have, I should say a handful of my students, I had to train them essentially to submit things that weren't 100% because it's part of the learning process, right? And so I said, it's okay to submit something less than 100% because that lets me know, where I need to help you. It's okay to make mistakes because I can't help you if you don't submit anything, and so it's just kind of this unlearning of this. It has to be perfect from the very start. We talk about the process and how, it's better to turn in, because I had a problem in the very beginning when I first started where students just wouldn't turn in their smart music assignments not because they weren't doing them, but because they felt like they couldn't get their score high enough. And it's been a process to help students understand that smart music is a tool. It's okay if it's not 100% perfect. Don't turn in something that's like 10%, we talk about reasonable mistakes, but it's okay to turn something in that isn't perfect yet when we're at the beginning of the semester. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And so it really is a great opportunity for my students to grow as musicians. For the students that have been with me for a couple of years now, I have seen them really blossom. Especially I had a couple beginner singers that, were just kind of eking things out. And now they are using good breath support and singing with good tone. And so I think that the pressure has come off of my students where they're not going to have to take a playing test, in the middle of band class, go into the office and take the playing test or whatever. They have the opportunity to kind of learn and practice on their own and then get the feedback. And then it's a safe place to kind of learn, fail, learn more, fail again, learn. And then finally we get to the end product and students go, oh, wow, we did something, we grew together. And yeah, it's not for a trophy. It's not for, a superior rating. It's not to make a viral video that is as beautiful as Eric Whitaker's, because I don't have that budget, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be, like when we learn music online together, it doesn't have to be a perfect product for the experience to be meaningful. I think just the fact that we can still have people come together and create music, I mean, that's reason enough for me. That's why I do it, right? To create community around music. Like Elise is part of my community, and I probably would have never met her in real life. Like, she lives very far away from me in a different time zone.
We still haven't met in real life, and we've been friends for years.
Yeah, it's just, just because you're not in a physical place doesn't mean you can't have a meaningful experience, and you can't have a meaningful experience around music. So yeah, I think it's just getting to that and understanding at the core of music, what is it about, So I'm getting a little bit on my soapbox, but
love it. Let me bring you back some of these other comments.
Okay, go for it. Rein me in, because that will go on forever.
You and me both, sister. Karen says, from a teaching standpoint, it has forced me to think outside of the box, to become more creative in my delivery of information. The kids seem really enjoying my new and improved teaching. It's also given me time to focus on parts of the curriculum I maybe don't normally get covered or not covered sufficiently because we didn't spend time because we were preparing for programs. And then, of course, Erin says something that's even more practical. She's like, I love teaching online. And she goes, it's all the classroom management stuff that she doesn't have to worry about. No bathroom issues, no kids getting into each other's spaces, no worries about seating, no physical bullying concerns, and kids who don't often talk in class because they're shy open up. And we hear that one over and over again. So there's a ton of benefits for the online instruction. And if you guys are struggling to have a positive attitude, knowing, and I get it, part of what we're dealing with in this moment, even if you're listening to this 6 months from now or 2 years or whatever, in this moment we're recording this, many people don't know what the school year is going to look like. They haven't been told if they're going to be entirely online. They haven't been told if they're going to be half and half or what their classes are going to look like or their schedule. And that's terrifying. So, but I do conclude that online learning is here to stay and it's not going anywhere. We're going to see so many more virtual schools open up, so many more online learning opportunities for kids, and thus for us to be quality music teachers, right? And even if we do go back to in-person, brick and mortar, 80% of us or more, right? That still doesn't negate the fact that we can utilize what we've learned in online teaching to support our students when they're learning from home, whenever they are remote from us. So I'm going to actually compile these comments and make a list of all of these reasons why online learning is good and why we can be positive about it, even if that's the way, I don't even want to say it that way. That's the way that the cookie crumbles. If that's the way that people decide that it needs to be because we want to be safe or because we've found some advantages to it, I want to give you this list so that you can read it. And remember that this is not the end of the world. This could just be an amazing beginning.
Yes. And I will just add to that too, that what we experienced in the spring of this year was not what online learning usually is, right? It is, we were in a moment of crisis and we were responding, and some people only had 48 hours to put it together and no one had any training. And we were dealing with this global trauma all at the same time. And so even I, as a full-time online music teacher at a full-time virtual school, had a difficult time this spring because our world was rocked. And I just want to put it out there that that was not normal online learning time. And, so don't judge all of online learning just by that one experience. Understand that it can be a place for lots and lots of growth and learning to happen, and also an opportunity for you to be creative as a teacher. And like, who is it? Who had said it? I don't remember who said that it was very creative. Well, whoever said that they were excited that they got to be creative, that is why I also love the online learning space, because I love to be creative with my teaching. Like every semester, I tell my students, I never teach this class the same way twice, because I am always trying new things. And every day, it feels like, especially this summer, I was learning something new. And it is sometimes overwhelming, not going to lie, but it's also really exciting and really fun to be given so much freedom in teaching. Sometimes things can feel really bogged down, especially with the standardization of things, even with the pressure of performing at assessment or festival or whatever your state may call it. When we have been freed from these things, it really opens up a lot more opportunities. And I will just also throw out there that your students are probably already making music online in some way, or if they're not, like the acapella app and TikTok and like all these things are already opportunities for students to make music or to move or to do something online. And so if you can get them to make music online in your class, that is just going to increase the likelihood that they continue to make music lifelong, right? Because this is already happening, right? I'm definitely a little bit of a curmudgeonly old person. I don't have TikTok, but I have seen TikToks, okay? I have plenty of friends who have TikTok and post them on Instagram where I do get to see them. But anyway, like there's so much music and movement involved in all these viral TikToks already. So your students are already doing it, and you can ignore it or join the fun. Get on the ride of what music making looks like outside of the classroom, because that's how we create people who learn music for the rest of their lives, who support music for the rest of their lives, who find joy in a community of music for the rest of their lives. Many of the people who I am in community with, music teachers, are not near me. They're far away. They're in California, in Connecticut, in Colorado, in Australia. And the only way that happened is through this online space. So all I have to say is embrace it. And if you feel overwhelmed, there are people here to help you. And I am here to help you. So I just want people to find joy in the thing that they do, even in this really tough time. I mean, I am feeling it left and right. But the one thing that I know is that in a couple of weeks, when my students log on to my virtual classroom for the first, music appreciation class or the first virtual rehearsal, they're going to be, they're ready to learn something, and it's just going to make my heart feel full despite everything that's happening. And so I'm just trying to hold on to those joyful moments and to remember that at the end of the day, if I can bring students together in community through music, then I have done my job. And it doesn't require a viral video. It doesn't require a trophy. It doesn't require a Carnegie Hall performance. It just requires students to feel a little bit okay in this time that a lot of them maybe won't. It just is a time for them to feel safe and welcomed in a time where maybe they aren't always feeling that. So just take a deep breath and come along with me on this online learning journey. Even if you're dragging your feet a little bit, if you can embrace it just even an inch more, it is going to be hugely beneficial for your students. And what is there to lose, right? Like, the worst that happens is that your students and you laugh a little bit at, the huge fail, because trust me, I've had plenty of huge fails. But, that laughter will also, maybe brighten the day a little bit. But join us on this online journey. I promise you, there are so many good things that can happen.
I love it. Thank you so much for being my guest, and especially on short notice. And I don't think we need to plug Smart Music anymore. They're obviously an amazing tool for online or even in the classroom or anytime learning for music students of all persuasions. So thank you, Michelle, so much for your time. And thank all of our amazing listeners for being examples to us all, for being adaptable, for being joyful, for sharing yourself and for sharing your light. And most of all, for sharing your time with Michelle and myself today. We know that your time is incredibly valuable and we appreciate you. So, my friends, just keep teaching on.